heat is still on.
Massive game.
New Zealand to win.
Great kick.
It's been a terrible year for little Wallabies.
We're missing an injection of life.
Stupid guys think they're so good.
Hello and welcome to RuggaMatrix International, episode 250. Happy birthday to us. I don't know if that works. Ben Kimber, welcome to 250.
Thank you, mate. Happy to be
here. Great to see you. And great to have you with us on this, the Rugby Championship preview. And can we say off the top of the show, thanks to these guys, Rugby Pass, the program brought to you by Rugby Pass. And if you haven't already joined our fantasy league competition,
get in.
Do it. Benny, have you started?
I have. I put a dummy team in for now because you've got to wait and see what the final teams are.
Dummy now.
Well, you've got to see who's actually going to start the games. But I'll put some names in. But I'll tell you what, I'll share my team on Facebook at the end of the week.
All right. Okay. There it is. So go to the link from our Facebook page. I will have a link on the homepage of RuggaMatrix as well.
Yep.
But go to Rugby Pass anyway. If you're overseas, you want to watch league or union, you can't beat them.
Can't beat them.
Rugby Pass guys, they're fantastic, and they'll be sharing out RuggaMatrix as well. So our show brought to you by Rugby Pass. So thanks very much for joining us. Let's get straight to it. Ben Kimber, what is your strike issue of the week?
This week, mate, the biggest issue was trying to think of how we could fit it all into one show. There is that much going on in Australian rugby around the globe. Women's World Cup. We've got the Bledisloe coming up. We've got South Africa and the RG's going to kick off the TRC as well.
Tell them what it is.
The strike issue of the week, my friend, is it's got to be wrapped up in Australian rugby for us. The big news about the force being cut by the ARU, legal ramifications thereof, things are going to be kicking around. So the question is, are the off-field dramas that continually beset the ARU, how are they going to affect the Wallabies into the Bledisloe Cup? So I want to do a bit of a Bledisloe Cup preview, but I want to talk about what does it mean off the field and what does it mean for these players. Think of the likes of Adam Coleman, Dane Haylett-Petty, these guys, who their livelihoods, playing in Perth, loving playing part of the force, been with their mates for years and years, their families are settled, it's all getting shot at the moment. They don't know what's going to happen or what's going to go down. So what does that mean? How do they get ready for a Bledisloe Cup? And for what is clearly the most challenging game of the year for this Wallaby outfit. So for me, there's too much going on in there. You got to question again. Now this is probably out of their hands, but the timing of this for the RU is just unbelievable. The fact that this comes out as we lead up to the Bledisloe Cup, it seems out of control to me. And Juro, you've been inside teams. What would you think this would mean to players who are trying to focus on playing the best team in the world?
Yeah, the players are pretty professional, so they will still do their job when it comes to Saturday's game. So I don't think, in terms of preparation, it might impact the force guys a little bit off the field. But look, when it gets to the heat of the battle, when you take the first hit and you look at the plan for the week, it won't mean anything for the game. They'll just move on with the game. It'll be just annoying for them having to go through it this week. The timing isn't good. But players are really good at focusing what happens. The players that get distracted by player contracts and stuff like that just aren't mentally tough, really. And you don't want those players in your side. I've seen a lot of those over the years. But I think the players will go and play the All Blacks as if it's a normal game. But the problem is, playing the All Blacks isn't a normal game because there are long odds to win the game.
Do management generally like this though? Like Checker seems to be a guy who often tries to
create mentality.
Well, he likes to create something that means that he's got look over there, I'll look after my players. It's like he's trying to make sure that there's a focus for everyone to talk about anything except his team. Do you think he would but do you think he would take something out of a big issue like this?
Yeah, I think he would. I think Checker will use this in a way to get the force guys to focus, and the way he's called on the WA crowd to be supporters of the team when they eventually play there to wear blue. He's got no problem with that. He wants them to support the Wallabies, so he's going to use it. He's going to use it in a way that, and this is really weird because who is everyone against? Because he works for the ARU, but at this moment he's focused on the Wallabies. He'll use it, and behind the scenes, mate. He'll be giving it to the ARU for sure.
Yeah, well, I'm sure he has been for some time. Yeah. I mean, just to recap, clearly the ARU won the first arbitration round. The Force have been named as a team that are no longer going to be part of Super Rugby. They're challenging it in New South Wales court. Bill Pulver has resigned. The reports are that he was going to resign some time ago, and unsurprising, He's been a bit of a dead man walking, I think, as the ARU CEO.
Well, he says he'll resign,
Yeah.
but he's not gone yet.
Well, I think his contract's up in February, but he said he'll go as soon as there is a replacement to be found.
I will believe it when it happens.
You think he's going to cling? Surely not.
I will believe it when it happens. What if we get to that? Because you're overestimating the ability of the ARU board to perform. But what if we get to early next year and they go, well, we haven't really found a great replacement? What about the statement before? What about the statement before, Ben, when he said, oh, if the ARU board asks me to resign, I'll resign. And what happened to the very next board meeting? Nothing.
Well, I think to roll into Brendan Cannon, good friend of the show, who's been giving me a lot of stuff before the show on Facebook, but he wrote a column this week that was bang on saying the board must resign, and I agree, because what you're intimating there is essentially what they're saying is Pulver and this board are inextricably linked, right? They are part of the same organisation that has manifestly failed to control or to drive Australian rugby in the best way for the last couple of years. We are in this situation, not purely and solely of our making, but they are the custodians. And I think Cano's dead right. They are all in the one ship, and we've got to back Cano's call to say we need fresh blood, top to bottom.
Absolutely, and the fact that it wasn't even raised, Bill Pulver's position at the last board meeting, just shows you what I mean in terms of getting to next year. I just don't buy it until it happens.
But I can understand him hanging around until this decision was made. I can, because it was his baby. He had to bring this to life. He had to put it to bed, to use all the cliches in the world. But I can understand that, and I can also understand that he's been beaten up. No one thinks he should hang around. It is time to go. And at least he's not just walking out the door, though. I saw Drew Mitchell, former Wallaby, tweet yesterday, I think it might have been, saying, Bill, I think an empty chair might be better than you being there right now. And he's only recently left the ARU employ.
These unions can run themselves, basically, if the CEO is not there, because there's a game day, there's contracting, all sorts of things. So the life will go on. Teams can do it. But I want to ask you, do you think the board would have the courage to fall on their swords? Because it's not just what he's had to say. The board is there for a reason. Ex-Wallabies there. We've got an ex-Microsoft CEO from Australia, who's a New Zealander as well. So
Pip Marlow,
Pip Marlow. So
Pip Marlow and Sherry, some very powerful business people in there who clearly know their way around the business boardroom. But in terms of this sport and its control, I would find it very surprising if the board fell on their swords. And to be frank, I think there should be a clean out, but I wouldn't like to see it all happen at once. You've got to keep things moving. And there's got to be some control at the top.
Disagree.
But I think
should clean it out.
A new CEO and a new chairman, and then look to clean out and to see how you can move it from there.
What's there to lose? They're at rock bottom, mate.
There's still going to be decisions to be made.
Yeah, but do you want to, what decisions? Like continuing women's rugby on the sevens path? When you saw what happened in the Women's World Cup, they clearly think they're still playing sevens rugby.
Well, there wasn't. The Australian girls aren't doing that well.
Yeah. So I'm going to make a point about that later on.
Ireland,
but later on against France, it was a real lesson in how to play 15-person rugby. So I guess in the end, Ben, the Wallabies will be sort of using it, and they're trying to do all this this media stuff, getting out and about in Western Sydney, doing all the nice guy things. But as I said, unless they actually put it on the paddock and perform against the All Blacks, then I'm not interested in what they have to say.
Yeah. But let's roll into the game. Now, you think that this can't be called as an excuse for why the team might not have their heads on straight. You think they'll be right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it then. They're coming off the back of a Super Rugby season where they lost 26 and zip games against New Zealand teams. I think Samu Kerevi, who's back in the mix, and it's good to see him back in the mix. I think he's needed in the squad. He came out in the last week and said they're a team that they want to make history. And to be frank, the shellacking that we've got at the hands of New Zealand now for a number of years, this team would not only make history just on beating New Zealand, but to do it in this current circumstances, this would be a win for the ages. I mean, seriously, I will not be tipping the Wallabies. I don't know anyone who could tip the Wallabies in this game. They would be one of the great underdogs, surely, when you look at all that's gone under the bridge this year, in tandem with the last 10 or so years. It is a massive mountain for this Wallabies side to climb.
Yeah, it is. It's huge, and it's no different to the last few years, isn't it? And you look at, they went so close at the Rugby World Cup in 2015. Now, I don't know if we're touching into your checker watch territory, though, but we might have to cover it now, because if we don't, we're going to be treading on the same sort of territory. So in the way that they're talking about the game coming up, they're talking about it in a way that they're going to approach the All Blacks and try and put pressure on them and then go from there. And that makes sense because what they're doing there is they're not going and saying, we're going to beat the All Blacks, because that just is foolish to say. They've got to believe they're going to win it, but they believe by putting pressure on them. Well, how do they do that? Well, they just pull out the old, the Lions did some rush up defence. Yeah, how do you do that? Well, you actually got to do that in the field. So you can tick all those boxes. So they've said those things to be nice in the way they approach it, but in the end, Ben, I just don't think that that's going to be enough because we just don't have the ability to do it.
Yeah, and I think, we've talked about Spin Doctor segment, and I thought about you this week when I saw some of those quotes. Like, they talk about the rush defence, basically saying that they've I've seen quotes, I think it might have been Dane Hale at Petty or others out there saying, yep, we saw the Lions rush defence, we thought it was very effective, we want to take on the All Blacks the same way. Now, we saw even within the 3-test series, we saw Hansen's team adjust to the rush defence at times.
Yes, there are ways of overcoming
There is no question that the All Blacks have been working on that. We've also had many conversations around the tactical or strategic nous or lack thereof of Cheika's Wallabies, who always say we want to play our own game. So if they go out there again and say we're going to play our own game, they'll get the same result they have before. We're going to need to see them think about the way that they introduce maybe rush defence, maybe not. They're going to have something up their sleeve that unsettles the All Blacks, who should be unsettled after drawing a series against the Lions.
Forget the rush defence. How about just determined and dogged defence? Get up and do the second effort and make sure you plug those holes and believe in your teammate. From the pillars outwards, they need to be sure that their guys are going to do the jobs, don't leave any holes. It's a really basic thing, defence. So I want to see the Wallabies just, basically die for their man. Forget all this other hairy-fairy sort of stuff about defence. Not necessary. Just have a dig. And that's what we want to see.
Get up off the ground quickly, as Eddie Jones would say.
Yeah, and get off the ground. So I absolutely think it. And, the game plan is a losing game plan. That's what the Wallabies have been playing a losing game plan. Yeah. And they need to change that quick smart.
And I think one of the things too about rush defence, what type of defence they play, one of the things that we've talked about previously as being a real issue is the combinations that Cheika picks and the way that they hide some defenders. So critical here is going to be the 10-12 combo and how they work. It's not going to be Sexton, Farrell, Teo for the Lions, who are, some robust defenders in there. It's Foley, it's probably Beale, and we'll talk about that in a second. And these are guys who aren't, great front foot, physical, first-line defenders. Beale does okay, Foley struggles, and they hide him. We've said before how that upsets the team rhythm. So whatever your plans are, if you're switching blokes in and out of your defensive and attacking lines, that brings those opportunities for something to go wrong, particularly when you want to execute so sharply against a team like the All Blacks.
All right, so let's look at it in more detail. So the All Blacks obviously in a good mood. Thanks to Darren Ormsby for tipping us in to the All Blacks and looking at their live feed. It was very relaxed.
I nearly fell asleep.
I almost went to sleep a few times.
All Blacks live stream.
But it was pretty funny. We had Dane Coles,
Crotty and Kane.
Crotty and Big Sam, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, so it was really interesting.
We just tuned into that live stream before the show tonight. Yeah,
it was good.
I did almost fall asleep.
I think there was a couple of thousands, more than any other media enterprise.
The All Blacks seem very well drilled in not saying a lot, the players. There is no more boring rugby player on earth right now than Ben Smith. Have you heard Ben Smith in front of a microphone?
Yeah, just don't bet.
It's he's the polar opposite to on a field, right? He's just, mate, he's terrible.
Don't say that.
Don't. Great player, terrible interview.
Ben, he didn't really mean it.
He didn't mean
it.
All right, let's talk about the two teams. I want to name my preferred lineups, but I want to see who they might likely name.
Right. Go for it.
We'll get stuck into the Wallabies first. Look, looking at the lineup, I think Cheika will go for a couple of curly ones because I think he's trying to spark something, right? I think he'll throw a couple of blokes in there and maybe try to mix it up. He'll try to surprise at least one, I think.
Well, he's talking about renovating the team. That was his term.
Yeah. But
if you're building a house, I hope the foundations are strong.
Wherever he renovates, though, it's going to be a bit risky, right? He hasn't got tried and true blokes. He's going to have to try people out and give them a go, and hopefully they step up.
So you're saying he's a dodgy builder?
I'm just saying he might not have permits.
We're just going with this renovating.
Right. We're in a hole. He might not have the permits he needs.
All right.
I think the tight five is probably fairly set.
Yeah.
Seo, Pelota now, Alatoa you would expect in the front row, or maybe thereabouts. Arnold and Coleman absolutely in the second row. In the back row is where it gets interesting. Regular viewers know Scott Fardy for mine. I can't believe he's not there. You want a big, rough and tough man who can take your line out as well as bundle it around the field. He's not there. He seems to like Hannigan. Hannigan's there or thereabouts. I think he's got something, but whether he's there yet, Hooper, of course, at 7. Tamani, I think, probably at 8. I'd like to see maybe Adam Korsix, how do you say his name? Out of Queensland. I think he looks a young bloke who might go well. It wouldn't surprise me if he pops up at some stage. Genia, I think, will get the 9. Foley, of course, the 10. Now, in the back line is where it gets interesting. In the centres, I think he wants to pick Karevi. I think he wants Karevi there for sure. So fitness there, hopefully Karevi's up to it. And Beale, I think he's given Beale the jersey a year ago when he signed him, or 6 months ago. So I think it'll be Beale and Karevi. And I think, think that's probably the best combo for me as well.
Yeah.
On the wings, Dane Hallett-Petty, I would put at fullback, and I would have Folau on the wings. I don't think he will. He'll keep Folau at fullback, and he'll keep DHP on the wing.
Agree, 100%.
And on the other wing, Stefan Ivalu started the last test. He's out with an ankle injury, I think. He'll probably go Henry Spate. This is one of those ones I'd love to see them have a crack at. I'm a big fan of Isaiah Parisi, who came back from the under-20s. This is one of those calls, though. You'd have to be inside the team to know whether you think he's ready for test footy or not. But, gee, I like the look of him.
Yes, so, Ben, I think you're right there. Look, this is the big test. You know, Checker talked about it. Will he follow what we've been saying for ages since Brett Papworth came on here? We had a discussion about Israel Folau, the lethal player on the wing. Play him on the wing and kick to him. Yep. Just keep kicking to him. And it doesn't matter if it bores everyone to tears. Just keep kicking to him.
And I think DHP's a better fullback. I think DHP's a better fullback.
Exactly. That's, you know, if he's talking about renovations, this is the start of it.
Yep.
Maybe a bit of weatherboard around the outside. Sorry to keep this going.
Mate, let it go.
And a thatched, because it's got a thatched roof.
Oh, mate, no, you're just out of control.
Yeah. So let's see how they go. But
so, look, that's the way.
I believe that if Izzy's on the wing and they start using him with that high ball, there's a chance.
Yeah. So, look, that's the way I think he'll probably go on some of the things I'd like to see. But I'd like to see these young blokes, Isaac Rodder, Korsix, Isaiah Parisi, and maybe Billy Meeks, right? If they're looking for a bit more muscle around the 12 zone, maybe give him a chance off the bench. I did like him for the Force. Into the All Blacks side. Now, big blow there with Dane Coles out. That is a concern, right? Another head knock. I think he got in that game against Taranaki and Counties Manukau. That is a real concern. For mine, the world's best player, made a massive difference, when he came back on the field, got out there for the Canes, was very much missed against the Lions. That is a loss. I think to have that again in the one season, you've got to be really worried about him.
Yeah, well, he was really worried about himself, wasn't he, Ben? He was really concerned during that period off the game, and now to happen again, I just hope that he's going to be okay, because this is tough. When you prepare to retire properly, there's even a struggle there. I remember when John Eales went through it, he managed it quite well. He was still at the top of his game and did it. But to go out this way, geez, that'd be a massive blow for him.
Yeah.
But I think his health is absolutely paramount.
And to be frank,
that's what we need to be concerned about.
Absolutely. And look, to be frank, Cody Taylor is a good player, but he's no Dane Coles.
No.
So, Geordie Barrett also a loss, a recent starter for the ABs. And, again, regular viewers will know Geordie Barrett, one of the guys I reckon with Ioane Rico, who's going to be there for a long time. Yep. So he is a definite loss. I saw some questions to Beauden Barrett about his goal kicking too, which he didn't appreciate, saying his brother's not there to put the pressure on him. To run through their team, look, I think they're going to go Smith, Beauden Barrett clearly. I think that he will probably pick Sonny Bill Williams and Crotty in the centres. I wouldn't. I'd pick Crotty and Anton Leonard-Brown. As you know, I'm a big fan of ALB, and I think he brings a bit more. I think he brings a bit more for the rest of the team in terms of width and direction. Sonny Bill's a great offloader, but I think Anton Leonard-Brown, the lines he runs and the passes he can throw, I like him more than Sonny Bill.
I think against Australia, Sonny Bill offloading could be an issue for Australia.
Particularly in that centre channel.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'd be interesting if they're preparing defensively, Ben.
Yeah.
Who they've prepared for.
Yep. Israel Dagg on one wing. It's funny. I'm not an enormous Dagg fan, but the thing that keeps him there for me is his boot. His boot compared to anyone else who plays in the 11 or the 14 is the best boot they have going around, and I think he brings a lot
great flexibility now.
Yeah. I would have Ioane on the other wing. As you know, I think he's a player for the ages. I think he's a 10-year top of the game player. I think he's the sort of guy who would really trouble Australia and has troubled Australian teams. And of course, Ben Smith at the back. And interesting to see what goes on with Mackenzie and Harvili coming in for that.
Big fan of Mackenzie's attack.
When Ben Smith goes on his holiday.
Well, I'll tell you what, bringing Mackenzie onto attack late in the game, he would be an absolute handful for Australia. There's no doubt about that.
And look, I don't expect too many changes in the 8. I think Hansen's probably pretty settled there. Reid, Kane, Kano, Whitelock, Retallick, Franks, Taylor, and Moody. I'd be very surprised if he changes there. But, you know, let's not put it past him after that Lions series. He might try to bring a bit of fresh blood in.
Yeah, so the big question here is, what will the Wallabies do? What's the game plan? Now, Checker keeps talking about this Australian way of playing it, which is a ball in hand sort of thing where you just run it at all costs because we can't kick the ball. We've seen that many times. So, Ben, what is the tactic for Australia? Do they introduce moves? Do they do a lot of inside stuff, which, you know, when they've done that before and they hit the right lines, when you've had an Adam Ashley Cooper and that sort of stuff, don't have those guys anymore, then they tend to do a pretty good job against the All Blacks. So I'm really interested if Checker will come with any sort of tactical backline play that can penetrate the All Blacks. Because don't forget, they've got to be able to just turn the switch and defend against that turnover ball. And if they're not ready for that, it could be any sort of score.
Yeah, we've talked about that too, and I don't want to go back to like we always talk about, but one of the things that I do give Checker a little bit of a leave pass for is we've said that Foley is our best 5'8", right? He is our best 5'8", but he is not a kicking 5'8".
No.
So you're taking out a very key tactical part of the game. The ability for the Wallabies to play field position and kick. I would love to see a Wallabies team that can go into its shell at times and come out within a game, right? So don't go in there with a game plan, which is we want to run all the time, but play the game where you've got on-field leaders deciding how we're going to attack the game. And by that I mean, every now and again, punch it up a few times and then put it to the corners and just trot down there and set yourself for the line out. Chase hard, chase hard, chase hard, and don't worry about all the fancy stuff. And then turn it on at the right times.
It could be possible that behind closed doors, Checker is really talking about getting the kicking scenario sorted, recruiting and trying to get players maybe across from another code who can kick. And so, Ben, I don't know, I think we're hearing all this running rugby stuff, but clearly he can't be that dumb to not want a good kicker.
Well, but who? You know, like Dane Halapetti's got a pretty good boot. Reece Hodge has got a pretty good boot.
Yeah, well, that's right. So then why not fashion them into the appropriate position?
DHP at fullback, switching in at 10.
Yeah.
I've said that before.
Yeah.
So I think I stole that off someone, one of our viewers actually.
No, they're pretty smart. And so I think there's a solution there for him. He's just got to, if he talks about renovating, well, there you go.
Yeah.
You could change that outhouse into a really nice sort of gazebo.
So
to keep that going.
Yeah, so in this game, look, I think it's probably the Wallabies' best chance of the year, getting them off the back of the lines. I know they'll have their All Blacks fired up, ready to play, but I think they've had 4 weeks in camp together or thereabouts. They're getting the All Blacks who might feel that they haven't got it quite working the way they want, and they might have to go back to revisit a few things. So I just think, I'm not tipping the Wallabies here. Just to be clear, I said it's their best chance.
Yeah.
All right.
I know where you're going.
All right.
I have a response.
So I want to feel like I'm going out. I'm taking the boys out. All right. We're going out to the ground. I don't know if I wear blue or not. There was a call from the Western Force fans saying go out there and wear blue and show your solidarity. So
we could wear a Waratahs jersey. That's the same thing.
It's very true. But I think my boys might want to get the green and gold paint on.
All right.
But look, I think it'll be a big game. I think the Wallabies will probably start reasonably well, but I think the All Blacks, 15 points.
Yes, yeah, I think so. It's going to be at least that margin, and might be late in the game. Like the Wallabies will stick with them for a while, but I just don't see the Wallabies coming close enough because we've not seen anything tactically from them. And just on the point you were making, the reason I was sort of shaking my head is, Ben, we see it all the time. The Wallabies may have been together for 4 weeks, however long it was, running up hills with tape across their mouth. But what they always come up with the excuses, it's the first game of the season, we always play the All Blacks, it's really tough on us, we'll be rusty. We'll go back to what the All Blacks did in that first test, the way they came out, and first test against Samoa, when they came out and still put an amazing score on the board, and hadn't played together before that. So the All Blacks will come together and they won't miss a beat. They'll be fine. And they'll be hardened because most of the team has played in Super Rugby finals, something the Australians have forgotten how to do. So I think they'll be fine. They'll be absolutely fine. They'll be switched on. So Australia won't get any leeway that way. The only thing they can possibly do is catch them by surprise with tactics. I keep coming back to it. Tactics is where Australia will win this game if they ever can. They won't win it through being physical, all those sorts of things, because they can't match them.
Tell me this. Do we expect them to be fit? Checker threw that out there and got the players to talk about it as well. They're not fit enough. He's pointed the finger at all the Super Rugby clubs. He's had them in camp. Can you get fit in 3 weeks?
No, you can't.
To test level?
No.
So it's still an excuse you can whip out, is it? We're still not fit enough. That's
So
why we lost.
what you can do is actually get yourself fatigued. Yeah. So these are carefully mapped programs throughout the year. Look at how swimmers taper for events. It's obviously not going hell for leather in a pool, but all those sorts of things have to be taken into account. You just can't. What the hell were you doing in December and after December, January? So you're not going to be fit. It'll pick up a little bit, but they're not going to be super fit for Test match rugby.
Quick little checker watch, because thanks to Brendan Paramore, one of our regulars, who posted this clip to me of Michael Checker on a Sunday sports show here in Australia. And in the show, he took out this clip, and it was really interesting because there was this conversation a week or two ago that was about, can the Wallabies go out there and say we're going to win it? We said, of course they should. They should go out there. They should intend to win. They should. In the show, Checker said the target needs to be to put New Zealand under pressure, not necessarily to go out there to win, and from there see what happens. That sounds like a departure from his usual...
Oh, no, I watched the interview, and it doesn't read the same way.
Okay.
So he said it in the path to victory. So you have to do...
It's the way you want to start the game,
so
as opposed to not focus on winning.
So you've got to win the phases, you've got to win sections of the match, and then the points will come. So I think he's been...
Well, I like the sound of that.
Yeah, so Checker was saying the right things there, but, it probably hurt him a bit. But I think it's a bit unfair to say that he was saying it in a way that... that said, yeah, we're just going to go out and do this and not worry about winning the game. Clearly, that was a path to victory. So that's where Checker was meaning. But you had to sort of watch it to get that meaning. Yeah. All right.
Box Argentina.
So if you reckon 15 points,
15
I reckon
points.
it's not a bad one. I'll go with 21.
21
to the All Blacks.
All right. A couple of drop goals in there.
20. I just love 21. It's not bad. All right, so Ben, let's move on to the spring. I'm looking forward to this. Springboks versus the Los Pumas, and that's in Port Elizabeth, yeah?
Big game, this one, because the Boks, with their 3-0 series victory over France, were looking the goods. Now, it was, it wasn't clearly, France weren't in the greatest nick by the looks of it, but the Boks got it together and they got some real heart out of that, and we saw what we wanted to see, a Springbok team on the rise again. This will be a good test of how much they are on the rise. Can they put Argentina to the sword? Or the Argies, after their England series, are they going to come back at them? Very, very interesting things happening in South African rugby. Like they've also had to lose a couple of teams, but they've been out this week saying that they would put more franchises up north if they could. They're loving the idea of playing up north. They envisage potentially 2 test teams, so having a team that can play north conditions and a team that can play south. Don't like the sound of that, but you can see where they're going in terms of if they spread their game across the south and the north, they might grow the game a bit more. Before we get straight into the game, though, red jerseys. I don't know if you saw this. The South Africans released a red jersey that they're going to play in. I think it's the away strip, and I don't like it. I just think it's so far away from their traditional colours. You don't like it? But it's, who else doesn't like it? Bucky's Bota.
Oh, what does Bucky's say?
Bucky's was asked on Twitter, what does he think of the red jerseys? And Bucky said, would you wear it? And he said, never. The only red I'm dreaming of in my first test is the blood I'm pulling from my opponents. So Bucky's, of course, who was often usually covered in opponent's blood, usually on his forehead where he gave him a clip, didn't like it, and I don't as well. So I'd love to know what our Bok viewers think, and we got a lot more this week after that Lions game, so welcome to you guys. But I didn't like it. Into the teams. Warren Whiteley still out, captain of the Boks for about another 5 weeks. Even Etzebeth is going to be captain, and that's going to affect my RugbyPass fantasy team, which I'll talk about in a minute. I still think Coley should be captain, but at least he's vice-captain. Yantis is the worry for the Boks. Whether he's got the goods to be a ongoing, regular Test 5'8", I'm not too sure. In the final, he didn't have a great game in the Super Rugby final. Has he got that extra gear, that step up? I don't know. Interesting to see Kerwin Bosch coming in there as well. Let's keep an eye on the halves of the Boks because I think they're shaping up nicely in the forwards. I like the look of them in the outside backs, but I don't think that's settled at 9 or 10. Even Ross Cronje, he was shown up by de Klerk in the final, who picked the team up when he came on. So a lot to look at there. They have got some good young backs. Sir Fontaine, some talk too about Combrink and Van Rensburg not being in the squad. I like the look of Van Rensburg too. So I think everywhere except the halves, I think they're shaping up nicely.
Yeah, I think you're right on the halves. This is a big test for them, and they're going to be monstered by Argentina, and they can play. They're a team that can play with tactics.
Yeah.
That's what I really like about them.
Yeah, well coached.
And well coached. They can kick too.
Yeah.
So, and they can play ball in hand when they want to. So I'm looking forward to it. Australia's definitely the bottom of the pile here. So they've got a lot to prove this weekend against the All Blacks. But this is going to be a cracker of the game. I think the Springboks, who we're looking at on the up, need to make sure that they refocus like they did and got that everyone on the same hymn sheet where they had them for the France series. And if they can do that against Argentina, it's really important that they keep that going. It's going to be a great series, and wow, it's going to be a showdown between the Boks and the All Blacks later on. All right.
The Argies, it'll be interesting to see how they come out of that England series, having lost that last test there. Couple of favourite players of mine in there, the likes of Creevy. Thomas Cabelli, who I think was underplayed at the Brumbies when he came back from his injury. And I think it'll be very interesting to see how they shape up. I don't know enough about the Argies. I've got to get into them more, and I'll see how they go this weekend.
Okay, so I think South Africa, let's say by 10 points.
Yeah, I think South Africa by a good 10.
Yeah. Okay, that is the start of the Rugby Championship. Don't forget to go to these guys and enter your fantasy team.
That's it. So
Ben's just at the autofill and...
autofill. Actually, the RugbyPass fantasy game, let's get into it. I had my first pass at putting a team together. Now, I traditionally am not very good at fantasy games, but the reason why, and I'm going to try and curtail my my worse angels this time, I tend to pick players I like rather than play fantasy smartly, because there's a bit of a difference here. And I'll give you an example. I was putting my side together, and Mostert to me is looking like an excellent second rower, and I think he's going to have plenty of points in him. He's going to be making yards, he's going to be taking lineouts, he's going to be putting hits on, and I think he's going to be a very, very sharp player, a world-class second rower, and I think that the kind of price that he is in the game is going to be well worth watching. But you've got to be thinking about your tactics. You've got to be thinking, well, they've just made his second row partner, Etzebeth, captain. They're not going to pull their captain off. So every chance Mostert's only going to get 60 minutes. So you've got to be thinking smart and thinking, which players are you going to get the most out of? Which players are value, which players are going to give you minutes, and who's playing who to give you the right impacts. So I like the look of Mostert, but I'm not sure I can take him. And the problem that I mentioned is that I do like to pick players I like. And Creevy's one of those, Cabelli's one of those. And I look around the park and I've got to instead think to myself, which players are the ones that are going to have the impact in the game that is going to be played? For instance, I'm looking at the Bledisloe. Dane Coles would have been one of the first guys out of the gate for me, just because, again, I think he's the best player in the world. And in terms of a hooker, the kinds of impact he can have, wide, close, line-out throwing, etc., is excellent. But with him not there, I'll look elsewhere probably. I don't think Cody Taylor would give you the numbers that say, an Augustin Creevy might in the Argentinian team, where he is such a central figure. Taylor nowhere near the kind of central figure that Coles is.
Yeah, I mean, I want to pick Christian Cullen, but it's not going to work anymore.
You said you wanted Ben Smith in 15 positions.
Well, yeah, but before him, my first love affair started with Christian Cullen. Yeah. Very similar fullback to me back in the day. He was so fast.
Similar to you, was he?
Unbelievable. I used to love watching Christian Cullen play. But, if I could pick Ben Smith every single game, although he's going to be around for a couple, I would. In fact, Ben, I've actually never really done in these fantasy teams before because I couldn't waste time on it. But because the competition's such a small one and, these are internationals, I'm really looking forward to it. So this is really the first fantasy league I've had to go at.
So as I said,
and it's the RugbyPass guys too.
What I will do is I will post the team that I select probably on Friday once I've seen the teams that have been named, and I can
I'll do the same.
See what they are. But as I said, don't take me as a great fantasy player. Look for the players that I like. I'll probably pick Khaleesi. I like the look of Raymond Rule. I definitely, Ben Smith in there somewhere, at least for the first 2 games before he goes. But the first time I ran through it, and I actually found the salary cap wasn't too bad. So I could fit players in that I like the look of, and I look for value. Like I think Alan Alatoa is probably value as well. Yeah,
absolutely. So we'll post it later in the week. Who knows where it's going to end up, Ben? But we're looking forward to it. Yeah.
And don't forget, the winner of our RuggaMatrix League within RugbyPass will get to come on the show. So we'll Skype you in for a chat around the way you approach the fantasy season and your thoughts on rugby. So if you want to get on the show, get in the fantasy league.
Even better, if you live in Australia or want to come here, you'll be right here in the seat between us.
There you go.
So
we can't
even
fly
if you're from
here,
New
though.
Zealand, get across here. Just ask the friends at Air New Zealand.
I know Dave Goodenough at Car who's going to be having a crack.
Yeah, good. Well, he's at Brisbane. So
He
we'll get him down for that, hey?
Cool.
But yes, love it. And there'll be some other goodies too. I've got heaps of signed jerseys and all that sort of crap that be happy to dig out and give to our winners. So have a crack. If you jump on there and just do anything, autofill, it all helps us.
That's it.
with the Rugby Pass guys.
And you'll probably get bragging rights over me as well, which I don't think it's going to be too hard.
Yeah.
But I'll have it a go.
All right. So that's great. All right, Ben, we've got to move on here.
Couple of things quickly to mention, mate.
Yeah.
Women's World Cup, been enjoying the highlights. I know that you've watched a fair bit. Me oh my, I have enjoyed that. Yes, boy. The Women's World Cup. Portia Woodman, 8 tries, 121-0 over Hong Kong.
Portia Woodman.
I didn't watch that. I didn't want to watch a slaughter. I didn't watch those highlights. I moved straight past them.
You know, it took. It was only 7-0 after about 8 minutes, so it took a while from the warm up.
Yeah.
But my goodness, she was just incredible. Whether it was taking the ball from a kick, cross kick, pass kick, to just running over the top of her opponents, she was wonderful to watch. Yeah. So yes,
I don't like slaughters, mate. I don't like slaughters.
No, but it was Look, that's fine. But we'll get to the Australian side in the moment. Yeah. But it was just great to watch. They're so skillful. It was terrific stuff. So well done to the Black Ferns. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Australia.
It looks like there's kind of 2 tiers there, really. It looks like England, possibly France, and the New Zealand team are pretty much a cut above. England, the defending champions, of course. Australia and Ireland played a great tight game first up. Ireland pipped Australia, but they now look on that lower tier. Australia got touched up by France, I think. So the World Cup not going great for the Australian girls, but it's so good, the profile it's got, the health of the game worldwide, rugby in Australia accepted at the moment, is good.
Yeah, in the 15-person game, it's very healthy in the UK. The amount of players there are incredible. Strong in New Zealand, of course, as well. And unfortunately, Australia's thrown all their, I guess, their hats into the ring, which is sevens.
Sevens, yeah.
And they played like sevens, Ben.
Played like there was 7 on the park?
Well, yeah, look, there were some good things. Mahalia Murphy, who's an amazing player, she plays league as well, and she plays a lot in the Koori Knockout and the Murray Carnival for Rugby League, Indigenous competition in Australia. But she's amazing, but got caught out in defence. I saw some of the defensive alignments, and it was like junior rugby at times for the Australian team against the well-drilled French team, and they were just chasing everyone, chasing the ball. So, there needs to be some work done on defence there. So if they can do that, then they'll be back in the game. But defending like that, they're never going to make an impact against the French team.
I think so. I think there was some English columnist who wrote a column panning the Women's World Cup saying they shouldn't be spending money on it. And I saw it tweeted, and I saw Joe Marler, the England prop, just went wanker.
Yeah, absolutely. The rugby's been
rightly
fantastic.
And rightly so.
And so I think just Australia needs to work on that D. It wasn't good enough in that game. And if they can do that, they'll hold their heads a bit higher. But, yeah, New Zealand obviously just in awesome form. So look out for them. But, yeah, great to watch. And we look forward to talking about more of that in next week's show.
Quickly on the Shoot Shield. Four teams left. Rats and Marlins this week and North's Eastwood coming up. Looking forward to that. Going to try and watch both those games and get out to the Shoot Shield final next week. Finally, as well, the big story for us the next few weeks will be as well, I think, who's the next CEO of Australian Rugby. There's a few Australian barnacles, if you will, who've been hanging around Australian rugby for a long time. They're putting their hands up. So I want to get to that in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, good luck to the Shoot Shield teams, the club competition in Australia. We didn't get to touch too much on the Western Force this week, but I think we'll get Cam Shepherd in next week.
The great Shep.
Or one of the
former
guys
Force
from the
player,
Force,
former Wallaby.
Brendan Cannon. We'll try and get him, even if the Skype in. But because there's more to come on that. It's a disgrace what's happened to the Western Force after sort of meandering through arbitration and just for so long. And I know I've been on record thinking we should have 3 teams in Australia. That's a separate issue because it's the way this has been handled and how they introduced these teams, particularly the Rebels in the first place, that I have an issue with, that so many people have an issue with. And the way it was done is so out of character with what Australian rugby is about. And there's no coincidence that people are flocking to the club game, to junior rugby, and thumbing their nose at the ARU. All right. Anything else, Benny?
Mate, just a couple of quick viewer
Yep.
comments of the week. Not enough time this week, guys, but 2 quick shout-outs. One, Luke Michelson, who sent me a really considered thought before the show, wanting to say that let's not demonise the ARU and deify the Western Force. It's much more nuanced than that. I took your point, Luke, but I really do think those custodians of the game, it is their responsibility to shepherd the game, and they need to be held to account. And finally, last week, I said to you I thought we'd have a quiet show because, you get down to the final, game, there's not as many people watching rugby.
Yep.
We hit about 17,000 viewers last week.
Oh, nice.
So thank you to all of you who tuned in. It's fantastic to see numbers like that. Do it for us this week again. Share us out, comment, like, subscribe. And the call out this week was for Jason Terron, who tagged about 1,000 mates on one of our posts.
Oh, Jason.
So thank you,
Legend.
Jason.
Well done. And to everyone on YouTube, don't forget, if you want to join us live, you can do that on 8:30 Sydney time on Facebook. If you don't like Facebook, just wait for us on YouTube and you can jump in there.
Cool.
Give us your comments, your thumbs up, and share us out. And we look forward to going toe-to-toe in the comments as well. But it's been a lot of fun. Oh, sorry, one last thing before we go. Can I just put this on screen? And there it is.
We did forget to talk about
almost.
that.
We can't go without talking about this.
Good Lord.
Steve Hansen and about the apocalypse with Arnott's. What is this all about, Ben Kimber?
This is a stunning acting debut by Shag Hansen. This came out yesterday. He's fronting a commercial for Arnott's Biscuits. And to be frank, it is a shocker. He just looks so wooden and uncomfortable.
Mate,
I like the campaign, don't lose your biscuit. And it's a little bit, maybe they are taking the proverbial a little bit by doing it like this, because he just looks so uncomfortable and wooden. And it feels a little commercial, if you will, for the cash grab for the All Blacks coach.
Well, have a look at him there. I think he stole Ewan McKenzie's bike.
Yeah.
The big Link loved his Harley.
Yeah.
And he's sort of got this Mad Max Terminator theme going. I don't know. I think he plays Arnie off a break when it comes to playing that hard man role.
Mate.
But Steve Hansen, I love it. I think it's hilarious. I'm a huge fan of his. If it's a subtle message to his players, he's gone to a long and great lengths to do it.
Yeah.
But just quickly, it's been directed or produced by Zoe Bell. And Zoe Bell is a New Zealand stunt woman who's obviously been in a lot of Tarantino films.
Oh, yeah.
She's awesome. She's fantastic. So you can see that coming through.
Well, I don't think she's a fantastic acting coach.
I don't think she's that great an actor as well, but she's a great stunt woman and been involved with the Tarantino films. But there he is, great man, Steve Hansen. And we had to mention that for sure.
What would the checker equivalent be?
Lose
your biscuit.
Lose your biscuit? Yes. Cracker biscuit. Get the iced Volvos. I was looking up. They do make a lot of biscuits.
They do.
There's some good ones. I like the Scotch fingers, pretty good.
So if you're listening, Arnott, you want to sponsor a segment, we'll do a Don't Lose Your Biscuit segment.
Yeah, don't lose your biscuit. All right. I better go home and have a few biscuits, eh?
All right.
All right, Ben, thanks for coming in, mate.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Luke, over the back there. You can't see him, but he's our in-studio guest. And I think we're going to the Catchpole Medal next week.
We are. That's awesome. We got invited to the Ken Catchpole medal for the Best Shoot Shield Players of the Year. Yeah, and I used to report on them.
Yeah.
So it'd be nice to actually just enjoy the event.
Yeah, so looking forward to that. All right, Ben, thanks for coming in, mate. Good to see you.
Thank you, sir.
Don't forget to finish off your fantasy league too.
I will. I'll post it on Friday on our Facebook page.
All right, will too. Okay, thanks for joining us for RuggaMatrix International, episode 250. Can you believe it? A lot of those were early days audio, but we're video now. And don't forget to put your team in on rugbypass.com. And of course, enjoy the rugby this week. We can't wait for it, and we'll see you next week. Join us for the after show if you're live here on Facebook. If you're on YouTube, we'll see you next week. Enjoy your rugby.